In today's episode of Work at Life, we are talking about reframing how we think about stress with Dr. Deborah Gilboa, also known as Dr. G, author of the book From Stress to Resilient. Join us. Welcome to Work at Life. This is a show for everyone who believes that work should be just as fulfilling as life outside of work, and that the way to get there is through building more human workplaces. I'm Maddie Grant, a culture designer and co-founder of a culture consulting firm called Propel, and I'm your co-host alongside my fabulous friend Sonia Lucina, an organizational psychologist heading up the workforce division at Question Pro. Hi, Dr. G. We are so excited to have you here. And stress is a topic we have not yet talked about on this show, unbelievably. So very exciting to dig into this. It's obviously a big one. But why don't you give us a little bit of your background, introduce yourself to our listeners first.
Thank you, Maddie and Sonia. It's really nice to join you. And I'm going to challenge your premise, because if you've talked about change on your show, then you have talked about stress.
Good point. Yeah.
My name is Deborah Gilboa. I'm a family physician. I'm an MD, and I see patients at a federally qualified health center. And about, 5 years into practice, I started to notice that there was this gap between what I'd been trained to do, which was to help people recover or prevent illness or injury, and being well. And that gap between getting better and being well really concerned me, because I wasn't just interested in getting rid of someone's wrist pain. My job as their family doctor is, yes, to make sure there's nothing terrible going on, but also help them live the life they're aiming for. And when I looked at the medical literature, as I had been trained to do when I had a question, what I found is that we called that gap patient resilience, which sounded like a cop-out. And so I thought, okay, but wait, what if it's true? What is that? What is patient resilience? And the research that existed at the time, mostly in adults, spoke about resilience in the setting of post-traumatic stress disorder or severe mental illness, which is very interesting, but not completely applicable to most of my patients. So I decided it was time to do some research. And I still practice clinically, but I have spent a lot of the last 10 years really focused on resilience and what it is and how we build it, and how you build it in yourself and how you can build it in other people. And I've been lucky enough to do some research with the great folks at Tepper School of Business at Carnegie Mellon University, especially about resilience in the workplace for adult professionals. And so that brings me to you.
Fabulous.
Oh, God.
So, yeah,
Dr. G, you have no idea how many questions I have.
So before we dig into the many questions that we have, Sonia, do you want to talk a little bit about our data point for today?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that we do on our show is, as Maddie and I were getting excited to have this conversation, we know each one of us comes from a particular perspective, but we also like to bring the larger perspective of the workers around the United States. So through Question Pro polls, we run these questions and we ask 300 workers, in this case, how much does change at your workplace cause you stress? So what we found is 29% of people said, 0 to 24% of the time, or I almost never mind having things change at work. So about a third of people saying that. And then slightly more, 33% of people said 25% to 49% of the time. Less than half the time is a change at work is a stressor for me. Then we had 24% of people say, I would say maybe 50 to 70%, 74% of the time, or in other words, often dealing with a change at work causes me stress. And then finally, 14% of people said that 75 to 100% of the time. So every time there is a change, I feel stressed. Dr. G, as an absolute expert in this area, what do you make of this data? Was it surprising to you as what you would expect?
So what I noticed about this is that more than a third of people said more than half the time a change at work is stressful. Yeah. And I am going to blame a lot of the changes that we have dealt with globally in the last few years on that high number. In most settings, people feel like only changes that really threaten them, right? Someone getting fired they didn't expect to get fired, changing your payroll system, a total restructure, a merger or acquisition, saying, hey, all those things you've been selling, we're throwing those out. You have to sell new things. Or the schedule that we had, we're changing entirely. Or where you work, how you work, with whom you work. Those are changes that really can make people feel very unsettled. But a lot of other changes, like we're refurbishing the office, we are changing the codes on the front door, we are going to ask you to clock in and out on your phone instead of your computer. Those changes pre-pandemic would have been, for most people, just part of doing business, not a huge deal.
Yeah.
Change is always, to our brain's neurochemistry, change is actually synonymous with stress. Meaning, when we find out about a change or the possibility of a change, our brain has certain reflexes where it dumps stress chemicals because, okay, everybody knows that our brains have a million functions. Even while we're just sitting here talking, our brains are taking control of lots of things, but our brains actually only have one job. Do you want to guess what our brain's one job really is?
Keep us safe.
Keep us alive. Even more
Keep us
fundamental.
alive.
Keep us alive. That's our brain's job. It's to keep us alive. The good news is we are all currently alive. The bad news is all change is suspect. So our brain looks at every single potential change and says, okay, cool, but could we die? And so that question is just to keep us safe. That's all. Could we die? And in an effort to have just a second to figure out if this is dangerous to us, our brain has these reflexes, these 3 reflexes. Think of them like speed bumps that we have to run over. And for some people, we go over those speed bumps. We go, oh yeah, speed bumps, no problem. Go right over them and on to figuring out how we're going to navigate the change. And for some people, every time they hit a speed bump, it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But it's a little bit cumulative. And the more times you have to go over those same speed bumps, which are, what could I lose? Can I trust this? And what will be uncomfortable? Those are the 3 speed bumps about every change, even the good stuff. Maddie, you won the lottery, right? Your brain goes, we won the lottery. Uh-oh, what could I lose? Right? Could, is this going to mess up something for me with taxes or my job or my family? Are people going to come out of the woodwork? Distrust. Yeah, but did I only win $2.25? Yeah. I mean, really, did I really win? And discomfort. Are people going to look at me differently? What is this going to mean in terms of how I normally go on vacation? So loss, distrust, and discomfort are just these 3 speed bumps. And they happen whether it's a new COVID variant or winning the lottery or your phone updating your operating system. Just something really simple, right? The vending machine changing brands. Your brain still goes, what could I lose? Do I trust this? And what's uncomfortable? Even while you might be feeling happy or excited or relieved or proud. So those 3 speed bumps can really wear on us if we have to go over them over and over and over and over again, especially if they're ones where navigating it isn't so simple, like a new COVID variant, like someone we love is sick, like our job is at risk. And so when people have that experience a lot, they get to a point where they just have change fatigue. And even something as simple as, hey, we've got a new cleaning crew. So you might notice that the garbage can is right outside the door to your office instead of it inside of it on Monday mornings. Don't worry about it. Just pull it inside. For some people, they're like, no, just no, a bridge too far. Cannot move. Nope. You can't move the wastebasket. And so that's why these numbers didn't surprise me. But I think they're really indicative that some people are on their last nerve.
Well, so on the flip side of that, I feel like there's an optimistic view of some of this data as well, because the almost 30% or however much it was of people who are not stressed by change. Sonia, keep me honest on the number, but it was a decently large number, and it makes me think that we're also maybe sort of, generationally almost more used to change. So we've been talking about how the digital age as it is change that is accelerating, right? So with the internet in the early 2000s and everything since then, it's like change is faster and faster and faster, and
change isn't new, but the rate has really picked up.
The rate has really picked up, and then COVID is like a whole different ball game. So I definitely agree with you on the cumulative part and the change fatigue for sure. But I also think that for some people, we're more, resilient might be the word, but we're more sort of used to it, and we're more capable of kind of rolling with it. And we need to be, as a human species, right? To keep moving forward, because there's no sense of it slowing down in the future, right?
Yeah. And there is an upside down U sort of curve for, not particularly at this moment in time, but in general, how humans adapt to change, where in our adulthood, before real physical struggles tend to set in age-wise, we're pretty good at it. We really are pretty good at navigating change. And, you've been in your career or your environment long enough to know what types of changes usually come, and to have some practice and have built what I call change competence. Doesn't mean you love it, but you're competent at it. It's like doing your taxes, right? The first few years that you're responsible for doing your own taxes, super stressful. And it's not that I think a ton of people who aren't in that business think, yay, taxes, but they do think, okay, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
And that competence makes a big difference. So I think that there's twofold, Maddie. I think you're right that people who grew up or started their career in the internet age have become early adopters. Like, early adopters means adopting something the day of, because a week later, most people are like, yeah, I'll try it. Yeah. And that's new in societally, that's new. And I do think that people are building that. And I think that there's research to back me up. I don't agree that just going through difficult things improves your ability at going through difficult things. We like to say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But in my professional and personal experience, what doesn't kill you makes you miserable. And without telling me who, let me ask you, do you each off the top of your head know someone who every obstacle they hit is a major obstacle? They're just, everything hard is really hard.
Yes, I do know.
Okay. So if it was true that going through hard things automatically made us stronger, none of us would know an adult like that.
Yeah.
Well, my challenge with this particular person is that they wind themselves up so much about every little thing. And so I try
because one of the skills that's a part of navigating change, of being resilient, is being able to manage discomfort and managing discomfort in neutral or positive ways. And it sounds like this person may manage discomfort through the repetition of the narrative about how difficult it is, and that the reactions they get or the reactions they don't get and then are upset about not getting feed their desire to distract themselves from the discomfort of having to navigate change. One of the skills that we found in our research that's crucial to being able to navigate change more competently. Again, you can't turn off the loss, distrust, and discomfort, because that's your brain's reflexes. It's a way of keeping you safe. But you can do things that turn it down. You can't turn it off, but you can turn it down. And that ability to turn down those reactions and navigate the change towards your own purpose and goals, that's what resilience is. Resilience is the ability to navigate change. And I want to point out, there's an organizational definition that we have of resilience. So everyone who's worked in a company or created a company, this will resonate. Organizational resilience is the ability to navigate change and come through it mission-oriented. And I can give you an example, but how that relates to people is that individual resilience is the ability to navigate change and come through it with intention and purpose, meaning towards your own mission, whatever kind of person you mean to be in this situation. When companies reached out to me just at the beginning of the pandemic, clients reached out to me that I've worked with on navigating change, a bunch. I mean, really like a dozen different business leaders in different fields reached out to me and said, all right, Dr. G, do we close, stay open? Do we keep people in the office, go home? What do we do? And I think partially they reached out to me because I'm a medical doctor and I understood the infectious disease part, but more because this was a really big change to navigate. And my answer was actually the same to everyone, which is, I don't know, but your mission does. Whatever your mission is, answers your fundamental question. And when you can have clarity as an organization around your mission, and when you can have clarity as an individual around your purpose, your goals, it makes navigating change much simpler, not easier, but more straightforward.
I'm almost, as you're talking through that, like I always reflect on my experiences. And for me, I'm oddly enough, I feel like it's a contradiction, but I'm a very optimistic person, but I feel like I stress a lot. Like the initial like reaction is like, is this going to be okay? And so it's weird. Like, how do these two coexist? But one thing that I've noticed about myself is that you were mentioning people's fears of losing jobs. And I remember when I first got out of grad school, and started working full time, it was right around 2008 and the recession in the United States. And so many people were losing jobs. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm this relatively young PhD without a lot of experience. Like, I'm toast. Like, I'm not going to be employable. And that was okay. And my employer kept me on board. And I realized throughout the years that often something would happen and some change. I was like, that's it. I'm going to lose my job. And I remember actually having a conversation with my mom and her saying, but do you know how hard you work? Do you know how much value? Like, why do you panic so much? And I was like, goodness, I'm not really sure. And so I went through some years of that stress and leveling out. And then I realized, and I had lost jobs before. And I thought when I did, I was okay and I figured it out. And then I realized that I panicked about it a lot more often than it actually happened. But over the years, I learned how to deal with it better. And then I had a kid later in life and I was like, what do I do with it? Like, my levels of stress there were because I didn't know. Like, now I got this career, 20 years of experience. I've got it. I've gone through not everything.
Right.
Yeah. But the kid, I'm like, oh my goodness, like he sneezes. I'm like, oh, do we go to the emergency room? Is he okay? Is he running a fever? And so it's interesting because I think what you were saying, like with being like mission oriented, it's that I think to me, it's always about happiness. It's always about others. It's about this like well-being, which I think it's sometimes really fragile and maybe difficult to define. And so I feel like a lot of times maybe that's why, like, the optimistic, when things threaten it, I panic.
Well, Sonia, you've just described actually the resilience cycle. So I only talked about the hard part of this cycle, which is you hear about change, and then you feel loss and distrust and discomfort. My baby sneezed. Could they be sick? What would that mean? God forbid, what's going on? Distrust. Did I put the baby to sleep next to an air conditioning unit? Did my partner bring an illness home? What could this be? Distrust. And then, or was that the baby or the cat that sneezed? Like, what really happened here? And the discomfort. If I have to bring them to the doctor, that's expensive, or they might make recommendations that I don't agree with, or I might have to put my baby through some sort of procedure. Discomfort. The next piece is choice. So when you start to panic about work, I just heard that we're doing a restructuring. What does that mean for me? What could I lose? Can I trust that my boss meant it when they said they love what I'm doing and they'd never want me to go? What's going to be uncomfortable about that restructuring? As soon as you remember that you have choices, you don't even have to list them or know what they are yet. As soon as you remember, oh, I should think about what choices I have, that engages your ventromedial prefrontal cortex. How's that for showing off my fancy medical words? And it turns down the amygdala in the center of your brain. That's the one that mediates all of that fear reaction, the loss, distrust,
lizard brain, right?
Yeah. So when you turn that down by just asking, wait, why am I panicking? What choices do I have? What if I lost my job? What do I know about my job? What do I know about me? What do I know about my career and what I've done? Then you list your choices. Okay, I could wait and see what happens. I could reach out to my boss for a conversation. I could just, open up the computer and look and see what other jobs are available in my field, just so I know I have choices. Who is it I want to be in this moment? I want to be somebody who's really committed to our company and to our mission, or I want to be somebody who keeps their cool even when there's work struggles. And then you engage with certain choices that you've listed for yourself based on your goal, right? So now you're in the upswing of the cycle. The downswing is loss, distrust, and discomfort. At the bottom, you get to choice. And as soon as you start to choose, you're engaging, which leads you back to the top, which is reunification. It's not reunification with the restructure or reunification with the boss, it's reunification with your own intention, your own goals. So you did that, and you had practice. And what's more, you noticed that you had practice. And so you got more confident because you noted your own competence. Then along comes a new change, this small person who's moved into your house, right? Your, what on the internet like to call your new broke roommate, and for whom you are entirely responsible. And your brain says, loss, distrust, discomfort. And you still okay, my big goal here is to keep my baby safe. So I'm going to figure out what choices I have. But it was harder to turn the amygdala down because you didn't have the confidence and the competence to rely on. This is why when you call me a family doctor who has been taking care of kids for 25 years and also has raised 4 kids of my own, and I say, oh yeah, sneezing totally happens. Pretty much never means anything terrible. It's okay. You go, okay, all right, I can navigate this with more confidence, because building connections, that reaching out to get somebody else's opinion, that's another one of those 8 resilience skills. I mentioned managing discomfort. Building your connections is another one. And when your 14-year-old sneezes, you will yell, use a tissue.
Cover your nose.
Right. But you won't ever even think, do we have to go to the emergency room? But you need some time to build your competence, because that builds your confidence.
So I have a question. This all makes a lot of sense. And I'm wondering if, from the perspective of, say, a manager who's observing their team person is the one. So it's not me, myself, and I, right? But it's somebody else on my team. And how can I support that person? Is it reminding them to take a breath and think about choices? What is
not first? So I really want to answer your question, Maddie, but I want to really quickly point out the big mistake that we make about change in leadership. When our folks, our team, our employees, whoever we've hired, whoever we've built this business with, when they struggle to navigate change, because it's usually the leader that announces a change, right? It's the manager who says, hey, we're restructuring, or hey, new schedule, or hey, wastebaskets outside your door, whatever. Yeah. When people struggle with the change, when they experience loss, distrust, or discomfort, we tend to think either that's a referendum on my leadership, they don't trust me, they don't understand how hard I've worked, or know that I only have their best interests in mind and I'm only doing what's best for our company. We think, don't they think I'm a good leader? Or, oh my gosh, I knew I wasn't such a good leader. Their struggle with change is not a referendum on your leadership. These are chemical reflexes in their brain. And their struggle with change is not a referendum on their character. Because the other thing managers tend to think is, oh, this person is lazy or obstinate, stubborn, not motivated, not mission-oriented. And that's not true either. It's chemical. So the first thing is to notice that this is natural. This is normal. This isn't you're a bad leader, and it isn't they're a bad person. This is normal. It's just their brain trying to keep them alive. Then there are actually, and this is a lot of what our research has been about, strategies that help other people navigate change, that get other people to primarily focus on choice and engagement. You cannot ask of anyone to stop feeling anything. We know that, right? You can't mandate feelings. So don't make it your goal that people will stop feeling loss or distrust or discomfort. You cannot control how hard their brain tries to protect them. Like, Sonia, when something happened at your work, any work ever, that made you afraid for your job, chances were chances are really high that there was nothing your leader could have done to make your brain not panic about that.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't control how many times you've been laid off, what your loans and debt looked like, who was counting on you to bring home whatever money you were bringing home, right? They can't control all the things that make your brain say, wow, loss, distrust.
Yeah.
But there are things they can do to get you to take one of your game pieces. If you want to think about this circle as like a game board, to get you to take at least one of your game pieces and move it forward to choice. And the first of those, if you have time for it, is empathy. Instead of saying, oh, listen, the opposite of empathy is telling people how they should feel or how they shouldn't feel. There's nothing to be worried about. That's not really helpful. Don't be angry. Don't be scared. That's like saying, oh, Maddie, your feelings, they're dumb. You should have different ones. That's not empathy.
Yeah.
I'm definitely guilty of that with the person I'm thinking of, because I know a lot of it's in her head, right? So I try in my attempts to be empathetic, I actually come out with something like, you can do this.
So here's a belief that I think we have in Western society that I disagree with. I think we have a belief that if you are a good person, expressing empathy comes easily to you. And the truth is that there are 7 cognitive barriers to expressing empathy.
Wow.
7 cognitive barriers between I am a good person seeing someone going through a hard time, and I have found a way to express that in a way that actually makes things easier for them. 7 different barriers. So this isn't, Maddie, because you just don't care enough about this person or you're too easily frustrated by this person. It's none of that. It's you're experiencing the cognitive barrier of dissonance. Their reaction doesn't make sense to you. You genuinely believe, heart of hearts, they're having the wrong emotion, right? Like you would, if you could, you would gift them with a different perspective. But since you can't do that, I'll give everybody a hack to 6 of those 7 barriers without listing them all. And that hack is this. You matter, so I care about what you're going through.
Writing that down.
Me too.
If someone in your family, you might say, I love you, so I care about what you're going through. If it's a customer, saying you matter feels a little weird, you could say, you're valued, so I care about what you're going through. I don't have to agree with you. I don't have to understand it. I can feel like I probably contributed to it, right? I'm the one who said, hey, you have to leave your wastebasket outside the door, and you hate that. And I'm the one who told you that. I can still express empathy. Hey, I care about you, or you matter. I care about what you're going through. The 7th barrier, that's when you personally, your own outcomes are so tied with that other person or with the situation that you're having your own feelings about the risk, about the loss and distrust and discomfort. This comes up a lot in families, but it comes up in work too, especially for leaders who are really invested in the success because it's their business or because they believe so much in the mission or they're really tied to their work. And so when you are really enmeshed with the outcomes of the situation, it's very difficult to get enough daylight between you and this person to just have empathy for what they're going through, because their behaviors or their decisions that come out of how they're feeling impact you as well. Yeah. And so then just saying you matter, so I care about what you're going through may not sound all that genuine, because the look on your face still says loss, distrust, discomfort of my own based on what's happening right here. In that situation, if your job is to express empathy, then the best thing you can do is remember that although some of the roots of your tree are entwined with this person's roots, you have some on the other side of you. Lean on those. Go to your colleague who isn't impacted by this, your business mentor, your somebody else, your partner or whatever, and say, loss, distrust, discomfort, so that you can come back to this person and be like, hey, you're valued and I care about what you're going through.
It's hard. It's hard work. Right?
It is, but empathy is one tool that you have. It may not be a tool that you have by the 78th time that you've heard the same problem from someone. So here's something else that you can do to really move people into choice. And I'm not going to take you through, this is work I do with companies that can take hours, but this one, I think you could also take away something really useful in just a minute. And that is, if you want to remind someone to turn on the thinking part of their brain and move into choice, rather than saying, well, you have choices, what are they? do this. Say, hey, around this, one choice I'd like to ask you about is, do you want to do it this way or this way? Giving them any choice gets them into their thinking brain and turns down the amygdala. So you might say to them, hey, listen, I hear your frustration about that client. Do you want to get back to them copying me on that response or forward it to me afterwards? So very small choices. You might, it's not to say.
I call that the toddler choice. That do you want
yes. Do you want to wear the blue shirt or the red shirt? Not, do you want to get dressed? Because then you'll have a naked toddler. Yeah. So in that same way, but what you're doing there is
what you want to do, because you can't put it on them to figure it out in that instant either, right?
So you're really working with their neurochemistry when you give them that toddler choice. Maybe don't call it that to them because it probably sounds pretty patronizing, but in your own head, you're doing exactly the same thing that a parent is doing who needs a kid to stop having a meltdown and actually get dressed. They're like, oh, looks like you're having some really big feelings. I care about you. So I care about what you're going through. I know you're excited to get to the zoo. Would you like to wear the red shirt or the blue shirt? So what you're saying is, hey, I know, I care about what you're going through. Remind them of your shared goal. I know you want to have a great relationship with clients. I know that's important to you, or whatever the issue is. And then say, would you like to deal with this in an in-person meeting or on a phone call? Or do you want, my support in this way or in that way, and only offer things where you're totally fine with either option? And that will turn on the thinking part of their brain. It may not turn down the amygdala as much as you hope it would, but it will turn it down some.
Well, it feels like it'll just deflect a little bit or refocus them a little bit away from panicking towards.
Yeah, it absolutely turns on this part of the brain that mitigates that chemical reaction, that just calms it a little bit. And that will get you closer to your goal, which is for them to be a thinker and not just a reactor.
Yeah. So I know we're close to time, of course, but I do have a question about this, because it sounds like, so when we use the word navigate change, in my mind, I'm thinking that means we're able to do it because we have a destination, right? We know the goal. And so we understand. So maybe in culture work, it's like, being really transparent about why the change is happening helps people to get on board with the change, for example. Do you see that in your work too? So it's like a kind of a further away goal as opposed to an in the moment choice of action.
You really cannot be resilient without knowing where you want to end up at the end of it.
Yeah.
And so it's absolutely crucial. And it's something that is easier at the organizational level than it is for individuals, because individuals often have competing priorities. Mm-hmm. Sonia, you mentioned, I have happiness and thinking about others and well-being, and those are great priorities. You have to, in the moment of navigating a change or in the process of navigating a change, decide which one's really germane to this situation. Mm-hmm. And so once you know, you really can't navigate a change and end up where you want to be if you haven't given any thought to where you want to be. I don't mean where do you want to be in 5 years. When you walk up to your car and see that there's a parking ticket on the windshield, you hadn't thought before that moment, what's my goal if I get a parking ticket? Yeah. And it may be, I don't have this $75, so I'm going to have to fight the parking ticket, take as many pictures of where my car was so that I can go in and try and fight the parking ticket because I don't have the $75. Or it might be, I want that 4 hours of my life back. I'm just going to pay the $75 right now because I know if I wait 10 days, it's going to be $120.
Yeah.
So you often have to look at a situation that's like, this is a change I did not want to have to navigate. This is a stressor. What am I going to do with this? And then I really suggest that people take 3 steps. The first is recognize. And we've been talking about this a lot. Recognize that change is stressful. So don't beat yourself up about the panic feeling that you were describing, Sonia, or the frustration that you have. Because Maddie, when you think about that person who's in your head who struggles with change, you're navigating a change. When you get when you see a text from them or a Slack message, you're thinking, yes. So you have a change to navigate. So I would say, first, recognize, this is stressful. This is hard. It's supposed to be like, that's just how my brain is wired, but it is. And have empathy for yourself. Okay. The second thing is to assign this stress a label. And by that, I mean, decide, is this stress unavoidable? Is it useful? It's helping you navigate towards a change that you want. I want this promotion. I want this house I'm trying to buy. I want whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And things can be both unavoidable and useful, but is it unavoidable? Whether I want this change or not, I can't ignore the parking ticket. Is it useful? It's helping me get towards a change I want, even though it's stressful. Is it avoidable and useless? If it's avoidable and useless, walk away. Set a boundary and walk away. But now that you've figured out, you've assigned this is either unavoidable or useful or both, then figure out what's your goal and reverse engineer your behavior to get that goal.
Well, that is awesome. And of course, we're out of time. That sounds like a perfect kind of closing, thought to wrap us up. But I do want to ask you if you have any other, if there's one thing you want our listeners to remember to take away from this conversation. And that was a good one. So, and there's just
I would like to point out that when you notice that the people you're responsible for are struggling to navigate a change, remember that it is, before you just barge in with a solution, start with empathy and then use that. And this is work that I do with organizations a lot, to figure out what's the resistance and what fear is it coming from. That will save you a lot of steps in helping your team navigate whatever's happening, whatever change resistance they're experiencing.
I love it. Sonia, do you have any other thoughts before we wrap up?
Nope. I think we should leave on this. Dr. G shared so many incredible takeaways with us, things to think about. I have so many notes. Thank you so much.
So many more questions. So your book, remind us of the title, and I assume it's on Amazon.
It is. It's called From Stressed to Resilient: How to Handle More and Feel It Less.
Love it. Everybody go buy the book. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been really fun.